Hi, this is Miss Hale, and this is your Chapter 2 CSI Notes. So the first thing I want to talk about is the principle of exchange, and we talked about this when we did the lab where you guys went to different areas in the school and were able to figure out where someone had been based on what was on them. So this is established by Dr. Edmund Lockard, and you can fill out your note sheet now. So when a person comes into contact with an object or another person, a cross-transfer of physical material can occur, meaning that fibers from one person may go to another, or fibers from a carpet might go to a person, etc. So if you study the material, you can figure out the nature of the transfer. So was a person walking on the carpet? Were they hugging someone? What was going on? And the duration. How long did that transfer last? There's different types of evidence that could be transferred. And if you could draw this picture right underneath where it says types of evidence on your note sheet. The first type of evidence is direct evidence, and this is testimony by a witness about what that witness saw, heard, or did. And this would also be a security recording, a videotape, or a confession from a suspect. Now, when we talk about circumstantial evidence, we can also call that indirect evidence or trace evidence. And we've used the word indirect and direct evidence in class. And it has two main categories. It has physical evidence, which would be something like a fingerprint, a shoe print, a tool mark, broken glass. Or you could also have biological evidence, which would be something that comes from the human body. Blood, semen, hairs, are all going to be biological evidence that would be found at a crime scene. So this would or would not be trace evidence. Pause the video and think about what you think. This would be trace evidence because it is physical evidence, it's a fingerprint, and it's found at the crime scene. This is both physical and biological because it looks like it's bloody fingerprints. So when there's crime scene investigation, there are certain people on the team. So people at the crime scene include police, possibly the district attorney if it's a big enough case like a murder, crime scene investigators, which are different from the police. They could be part of the police system or part of a forensic science lab. A medical examiner will be there if there's a dead body. Medical examiner is a person that examines dead bodies. Detectives, again from the police department, and then you might have specialists like fingerprinting, blood spatter, and those types of things. When you are going to a crime scene, there are 7 S's to remember about what you need to do at the crime scene, and they go in order of what you want to do. So the first one is to secure the scene. That's when you see the caution tape roped off, you're going to guard the scene, have police people there. So you want to secure it. Second thing you want to do almost immediately is to separate the witnesses, and that's so they don't talk to each other. You don't want their memories affecting one another. Number 3 is scan the scene. You want to be looking at the scene for clues, for what is going on. You want to make sure that no one's there, which would be part of securing the scene, and just to get a general idea of what's going on and what has happened. Then you want to see the scene, and this is different than scanning the scene because you really want to look at the details. Scanning the scene, you're looking at the big picture, and seeing the scene, you're looking at the details within the crime scene. Sketching the scene is going to be very important. We're going to practice that in class. You want to measure things from 2 fixed points and make sure that you document where all the evidence in the crime scene is. Then you're going to search for evidence. So you're going to go into all those nooks and crannies and look for the tiny hairs and the tiny fibers, as well as fingerprints and blood spatter, because it might be difficult to see if there's just a small amount. And then you're going to want to secure the collected evidence, collect it, and put it in a safe place for safekeeping. It would be very bad to lose. So those are your 7 S's. Secure, separate, scan, see, sketch, search, and secure. Again, securing the scene and as well as the collected evidence. This is what a crime scene sketch form looks like. So we have a scale, a 1/4 inch on this paper equals how many feet, as well as the case number, the date, the location, who's taking it, and then you would put north in this direction, and then you would draw your scene here. We'll use a similar paper when we do our crime scene sketch. So here's some crime scene search patterns, and you can draw them underneath where it says crime scene search patterns. We have a grid where you would begin one way and you're going to go back and forth one way through the crime scene, and then you're going to switch and you're going to go back and forth the other way. And we're looking for evidence here. So we want to be very systematic. You could be linear, you could begin and kind of loop your way around and then end here and then go back and begin and do a little bit of a wider search. You could separate into quadrants or maybe even smaller zones so that you look at each person is looking at one zone, or you're looking at one zone at a time. Or you might spiral, so you could start in from the middle of the room and work your way out looking for evidence, or go from the outside of the room and work your way in. When you do find evidence, it's very important to package it in specific ways because you don't want it to get moldy if it's something that is wet, and you don't want to lose anything. So if you had a piece of dry evidence, like a hair or a fiber, a bullet, you might use a paper bindle. So to create paper bindle, you're going to crease a clean paper on the crease line, so in thirds both directions, and you're going to unfold it and you're going to place your evidence where the X is. And then you're going to fold in the sides and then fold in the top and bottom, which will secure the piece of evidence where it needs to be. And then you're going to place the bindle into a plastic or paper evidence bag with a seal over the top, and you're going to write your name directly on top of the seal. And that's to make sure that no one is going to be tampering with the evidence. Here's an evidence ID form. It's very specific: the case, the inventory number, the item number, a description of it, where it was recovered, by who, who's the suspect and the victim, what's the type of offense. And then as the bag is opened and closed, the chain of custody needs to be kept. So you're going to write who you received it from and the date, who you are, and the time. And then you're going to put it back in and seal it in the same way by writing your name over the label. So this is how you would write your name right over the seal, so that and as it gets opened more and more times, you'll have labels in different places. And this is really essential because otherwise the evidence will not be able to be used in court. So you need to maintain this chain of custody. So when you are packaging the evidence, you want to, I think we skipped, oh no, we got it. Okay, we're good. Okay, so when you are under chain of custody now, so you're going to bag the evidence, add your identification, which is the chain of custody. You're going to seal it and you're going to sign over the sealed edge. When you pass it to someone, you're going to sign it over to a lab technician who's going to open the bag on a different edge than the edge you sealed. Then they will return the items to the bag, seal the evidence into another bag, and then sign the evidence log. And they're going to sign their names over the second bag. When you're analyzing the evidence, lab results can either show reliability of the witness accounts, whether they're reliable or not, establish the identity of suspects and victims, and show suspects to be innocent, or link them with a crime scene or with a victim. They can't directly show that they're guilty, but they can show that they're innocent. Important piece of analyzing evidence is to do a crime scene reconstruction. And this involves forming a hypothesis or a prediction of the sequence of events, what actually happened at the crime scene. And that's from before the crime was committed through, all the way through when it was committed. Sometimes you're going to have a staged crime scene, and this is when lab results don't match up with the testimony of the witnesses. So some common examples of this are staging a fire to cover up a bankruptcy, staging a suicide to cover up a murder, and staging a burglary to collect insurance money. So you'll know if the crime scene was staged if the type of wound does not match the weapon. So that needs to be something you consider. As well as, could the wound have been easily self-inflicted? Maybe they said someone came in to hurt them, but they're actually hurting themselves. What were the mood and actions of the victim before the event? What were they doing? Were they talking to other people? Do other people know anything about what was going on? And what were the mood and actions of the suspect before the event? So those are your crime scene notes, and If you have any questions, please write them down on the back of your paper, and we'll be sure to go over them during class. Thank you.